So I'm having a chat with Chrissy from Against the Current. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks very much. First things first, you have a new single out called Weapon. What can you tell us about the single?
So Weapon is really, it feels really triumphant to finally have this song out, because this was the first song that we wrote when all the lockdowns started happening, like the very first one. We had been writing and recording a little bit, and then we had plans to go back in the studio and continue what we were doing. And That Won't Save Us was already written at that point. And then all of a sudden it was like, nope, nobody's going anywhere. Everything's locked down. And we were like, what do we do? And this was back when people thought it was going to be weeks, like not a year, however long it was. And our producer, Matt Squire, was just like to me, you know, we could just try writing over like Zoom and just see what works, you know, and if it doesn't work, no pressure. We'll be back in the studio in a few weeks, next month, whatever. Anyway, it'll be fine. And I was like, okay, cool, let's try it. Because this was at a time that nobody had started writing again yet. And yeah, we loaded up Zoom. I had no experience like recording my own vocals at this point, or using any kind of recording software anymore. The last time I used it, I was like 16. And the first day, Weapon came out. And I remember us saying to ourselves as well, like, because this was like maybe a week or 2 weeks into the quarantine, and everyone was like just terrified and scared. And I think there was like there was just like a universal feeling of just like pure fear with everyone, because we didn't know what this thing was. And I remember Matt and I just saying to each other, we are not going to write about this. We're not going to write about the quarantine. We're not going to write a song about isolation. We're not going to like we need something that gets us out of this. Like, obviously, you know, music is really important for healing and for working through things. And there was a time and a place for that. But when we were so deep in it, the last thing we wanted to do was to have more of it. So we were like, let's get out of this. The last thing we want to do is to write that song right now.
Yeah, because another band that I've interviewed actually said to me that actually music for them should be an escape from the real world rather than trying to keep you in it.
Right. And of course, it's, you know, music is so cathartic, and it's helped me work through so many very real things that exist in the real world as well. And Weapon is about something very, very real to me. But at that time, it was just it was all you heard. Like, the news was on like 24/7. All you could hear was more deaths. The ventilators there wasn't enough, and the hospitalizations and this and that. It was so overwhelming. The last thing that we wanted to do was to talk about that more.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is your second single since Past Lives. Are we now gearing up towards record 3, or are these just singles just to get us through lockdown and quarantining?
More or less, yes. I think we're being a little bit more creative with how we're releasing this next era, but it's definitely, you're going to get an album of songs at some point, yes. In so many words.
Yeah, keeping it on the down low for now, though.
Yeah, keeping it on the download for now. I think it's important for artists to get creative while we don't have touring right now, and there might be some touring later in the year, but you know, who really knows what's going to happen. So the last thing we want to do is like drop an album tomorrow and then not be able to tour, and then there it is, and it's done, and it's out there, and you know, then we're just sitting here like, okay, you guys like it.
Yeah, most definitely. And you've been releasing music since 2014. How has the music evolved since then through until now?
Oh my God, so much. What's funny is that I think with the new songs, with That Won't Save Us and Weapon, is we're really tapping back into the Gravity era of our music, which was our second EP, but I think really where the band found its footing for the first time. That's where I think we really connected with fans for the first time, and even just ourselves as musicians, and found confidence in ourselves. That era of touring for us was massive. It was like our first time doing like international headliners and things like that. So tapping back into that's really important. But obviously now looking back at that era that we wrote, we must have been, I think, like 18, 19, and now we're 25. we've learned so much about writing and recording and being artists since then. So it's just elevating everything. But I think we're tapping back into that energy that we had in the Gravity era.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to lockdown, obviously touring stopped and festivals have stopped and things. I bet you can't wait to be back out on the road as soon as you can.
Oh my God, it's all I want in the world. I was saying, I spilled like a beer on my floor. I had a friend over and we spilled a beer on my floor. And it was like my floor was sticky the next morning, and I was like, it's like a venue. This is like home. And it's just like those little things, like the smell and the feeling of like sticky beer on the floor. And I was just like, it's like a little club show, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just like, there's those stupid little things that you hate when you're in, but I miss them so much now because they're the little quirks that you fall in love with venues and touring. And I just miss seeing our fans in person and talking to them. And they've genuinely become our family and our friends. So not being able to see them is the same as not being able to see any of our friends. And it feels super strange being away from them for so long.
Most definitely. And you're a band who does love to tour. Is there anywhere that you haven't been to before that you do want to get to at some point?
Oh my God, so many places. India is a huge one. India and Brazil, I think, are are two of the huge ones that we get asked to come to all the time that we haven't been to. So I would love to go to India and Brazil. I think it'd be awesome. We've tried like twice, and both times it just fell through. I also think I would love to go to Vietnam personally. That's more selfishly for me because I just want to go and see the food, and there's like the river market and stuff. So that's more of a me thing, but I would just love to. But yeah, and also just I love anytime we get to go to different cities within countries we've already been. Because a lot of times, obviously, the first time you go to that one major city that everybody goes to, but you go back and you get to go to some of the smaller cities, and they're smaller shows, but you get to see more and more of that place, and it's so cool, it's so much fun. Like we've been to probably like 20 cities in Germany, and it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just having a little flick through your discography, and there's a number of remixes of your tracks. There's acoustic versions, live versions. Is that something you love to do?
Yeah, because I think the same song can tell a few different stories. It can tell infinite stories, really, because it's how the listener connects with it. So retelling that song in a different way, I think when you listen to it, presented differently, you might hear something different. I think That Won't Save Us and Weapon both have a similar thing where they're these harder, heavier, more energetic songs, but there's something deeply emotional and raw about them lyrically, and you might kind of miss that in like the chaos of the song, which is, so it's really nice to strip it back and kind of give it that moodiness and like let the lyrics shine for a moment instead of the energy, and connect with the meaning of the song. And in terms of remixes are just always fun, especially when it's like Will did a remix, which was awesome because it's like, all right, this is someone who wrote the song now reimagining it. But it's also cool when someone else comes in because it's hearing this song through their eyes. Hearing our song through somebody else's eyes is a really interesting experience. But for me, I always love stripped down versions of songs. And then live, obviously, it's, live is live. It is what it is. You leave it all on the table there. There's no editing. There's no second chances. So, and that's how a lot of our fans hear our music a lot is live at our shows. So I love having the retelling the same story different ways.
Amazing. Excellent. Wow. Chrissy, it's been great having a catch-up with you.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Hopefully we'll do it in person soon.